That's another thing is this asshole here tried to tell me that no other man would want me. That my face was fucked up, that no other man would have me. I think he was trying to spread rumors, try to make it seem as if I had STDs. So, he was trying to make other guys afraid to be near me. I've never even had an STD in my life. I've never had a sexually transmitted disease, ever. But this asshole was telling me no one else would want me, all this shit. And what's more, he was hacked into my phone. I saw this commentary software, like people add to websites and shit, because he took computer technology. He was building websites. I caught him doing all that kind of stuff. And he had this stuff on there. They'd made over 2,000, him and the people who was helping him, made over 2,000 emails. And putting shit on there, little comments like I should sleep with other men and all kinds of stuff. The thing of it was, he knew that I'd spoke to a divorce lawyer and he was looking for any way to make it seem as if his wife was the one doing him wrong. And another thing is, this fucker accused me of fucking a guy. He got up in that guy, he got right up next to that guy and said, I heard you fuck my wife. And then he partied with the guy all night long. He got caught with my ex-boyfriend's wife. I'd had this ex-boyfriend. Me and him started actually dating in 7th grade, something like that. And, we stayed friends. He's dead and gone now, but we stayed friends throughout the rest of his life. He had some really young girlfriend. He was the same age as me. He had some really young girlfriend he'd had a kid with because he had 1 kid. So, and yeah, I'm trying to talk a little faster than usual because, this burns up my memory on my phone. But as far as all this goes, this guy has been caught doing some pretty terrible stuff, but he wanted to make his wife seem like the terrible person. This guy even called me a 12-year-old's name in bed. No, I'm not being heartless. He's been heartless toward me, and everyone's expecting me to forgive it again and again and again for over a quarter of a century. No. Absolutely not. There was him and some other people started a bunch of rumors and tried to make other people think that I was the one that did it later, and I'll tell you how. He would come home, and he'd say, I got good news and bad news. And what it was, he'd seen this video on his YouTube of some news anchor committing suicide. And the reason they did it, the reason they said she did it was because, she said that every day it was just something depressing happening. She was always reporting on it, and it finally got to her or something. But, I forgot what the woman's name was. But that gave him ideas. He's actually handed me rope and all this shit. Our daughter said she was really depressed, so he showed her how to make a noose. Just evil, evil, evil shit. Them, and all these people are like, oh, but he was like this, but he was strung out on that. No, things he was doing all along, he cannot blame. Just because he wanted to say he was on drugs. He wanted to say he was on drugs. He wanted to say it was all the Lortabs he was eating. He wanted to say this. He wanted to say that. Does not excuse him to have no empathy for the people he claimed to love. And the thing of it is, after all these years, people make mistakes. But when somebody's mistakes actually become a lifestyle, when that becomes the way they live daily, that's who they are as a person. My husband making the same choices over and over again, putting me through the same pain over and over again. That is the choices he made. That was the lifestyle he chose for both of us. Him wandering around trying to brag to other people. He threatened to commit suicide. Cops hauled him away from here. Took him to, a behavioral health unit, all this stuff. And he was screaming on the 911 call that he would kill himself if his wife left him. Soon as this asshole thought he had all that documented about how much he loved his wife and stuff, then he started doing things like I cooked dinner and he'd smash, the casserole dish or whatever, the Pyrex plate. He'd smash it all over the floor and throw that and the food all over me, throw the food all over the walls, try to make me clean it up for him. And he's always done that. When he gets mad at me, he destroys a bunch of stuff and then tries to make me clean it up for him. and all this stuff. I was always the one that did all the housework here. This fucker didn't want to do anything. He faked passing out once, and yes, I know he was faking it for sure. Even our teenage daughters knew their dad was faking it. He faked passing out once because since I was 11 years old, it was always my job to mow my yard and other people's yard and all this stuff. Up until about 2016, something like that. Hell, might have been learning that. Might have been mowing yards learning that. But he really didn't want to, so he faked passing out. And we were like, we know you're faking it. He jumped up and stomped away, angry as hell, because we knew he faked it because he thought his wife should have been doing it for him. So all the stuff he was doing, and he did something else is I know he had someone else watching the messages he was sending to me and all this stuff, and I'll tell you why. Because I've always been the one to do all the dishes. I've always did all the housework. I've always been the one to do all the laundry. Hell, I can fix my own appliances if they're not broke too bad. Stuff like that. I know how to do maintenance. Know how to do drywall. Know how to do all those things. But this asshole was making a point of trying to take pictures as if he was the one doing those things. So he had someone else watching. He had someone else seeing what he had on, the messages he was sending me from his tablet and his phone and stuff like that. He had someone else watching it. He was trying to make them believe that he was the one always doing the work here. But it's a well-known fact it was always Julia that was doing all the cleaning here. And as something else, and you know what? I know that some of McLean County government was in on it with him because they started sending all these people my way. These guys, like one guy contacted me. I known him since, elementary school. I'd known him probably since the second grade. And, he'd asked me if he could come over once. And I thought, no. It seemed like a set-up deal to me. He's partying with my husband and all that shit. And I was like, no, my husband's not home. Just looks bad. Sorry, you can't come over and shit like that. So next thing I know, they're always putting this guy in my way and all this shit. He was trying to make it seem as if I'd had sex with almost everybody on my goddamn social media profiles. And the fact is, didn't. But he wanted to make it seem as if I did. I know how to cook. Obviously, I spent a long time in a restaurant working from the time I was, a real young teenage girl. From the time I was a real young teenage girl, I worked in a restaurant. What do? We cooked. I had to clean. I had certain things I had to do. We had a real small crew. It wasn't a chain restaurant, stuff like that. So, you're in a restaurant like that. If it needs to be done, you do it. And, he's trying to make everybody think I couldn't take care of myself or something, but I've taken care of myself all along. I've worked during our marriage, and there was a whole lot of times he had a vehicle, but I didn't. Because anything I had, he would tear up or something like that, or he would expect me to trade my vehicles in to get what he wanted to get. Stuff like that. So all this time, he was trying to make everyone think his wife was sort of incompetent or hadn't grown up or something like that. But the fact is, when he was using, my bank account, he kept bouncing it, overdrawing it all the time. He was daytime shopping all the time and stuff like that. Then right now, he wants me to pay his bills, but all of a sudden, everyone has all these crises they need my help with every time I go to pay bills that are in my name. This guy tried to make a damned if you do and damned if you don't situation for me. He even criticized the way I did dishes. What he didn't do was ever do the dishes himself. So, while he was cheating on me, suddenly he criticized everything about me. Nothing I did was right. Yada, yada, yada. But you know what? It was. And the fact that someone wants to be the one to have the title of breaking Julia down, of making me feel bad about myself, because in my family, especially when it comes to me. There is certain people in my family that it really pisses them off if I have any self-esteem at all. You know why? Because people with self-esteem are hard to control. It's hard to manipulate someone that has self-esteem that will stand flat-footed and tell you fuck no. He does not like that. He wants a yes woman. I'm not a yes woman. We've been married for over a quarter of a century. He should have got it through his head by now that he would not bow me to his will. And no, Julia was never his dope whore. So if he was trying to give everyone a bunch of excuses and tell wild stories to excuse himself for why he married me, when I married him, it was 2 months after I turned 17. I wasn't pregnant. Wasn't pregnant at all. Didn't get pregnant until later. We've been married a while before I got pregnant. But when I went to marry him, all kinds of people that he hung around with all the time and all this shit shut up at my house. You know, I was living with my grandma and said, Julie, do not marry him. I said, why? They said, you know, you're a pretty good old girl. He's too rough for you. I said, what do you mean? Too rough for me? Hell no. I don't really, he could physically hurt me if he wanted to. He just knows he could hurt back. This Kentucky, people have the right to meet force with force. People have the right to defend themselves. That's how it is. The thing of it is, he will start a bunch of rumors and all this stuff beforehand. It ought to be done before you ever knew it happened. So next thing you know, he seems like this good old guy. He keeps, if anybody realizes how he speaks to them, he tells them these big old stories, you know, war stories of being in the Marines or what the hell ever. He keeps everything short, shallow, all this stuff. Acts like he's some, you know, humorous prankster and all this shit. So I was always voted humorous in school, you know, the most witty and stuff like that. But, you know, you don't seem very witty when your whole life is nothing but a battle of trying to defend yourself from someone like him. So, you know, he would run and do all this stuff. He makes himself seem like this, you know, easygoing, humorous guy and all this shit. Easy for him when every time he gets in trouble, he expects his wife to figure out what to do about it. Car tears up. You know, we got stranded in Owensboro once. Car blew up. I knew they weren't going to, you know, we weren't going to be able to fix it. It would have been too expensive. Wouldn't have been worth the money. For as many miles is on the car. So what happened? I had to figure out how to hurry up and get us another car to get back and forth to work. And I did. But for the most part, a lot of always having to stay a step ahead is what's been my life. This motherfucker is such an asshole. He showed me some video, and it's actually a movie based on a true story. And it's this girl, and I'd have to look up the name and the title of the movie, but she actually had got adopted by this woman. The woman already had a bunch of sons and shit like that. And, you know, this girl went through so much terrible abuse, she was actually tied to a bed. Her female glands cut out, and then gang raped. He saw that movie and then started telling me he wanted to cut mine out. So, you know, I told him there will be no self-mutilation on my part. Not about to mutilate my own body because someone else wants me to. And just because someone wants to make him seem like a good guy and wants to make it seem as if he's this great person and all this stuff, no. I know what the hell he said to me. I live in the same house with him every day. Someone's not going to tell me the truth about him. I know the life I live with him. So I know what the truth is for me. I know what I have been put through. That's another thing, is he pointed his finger in my face right before he had our daughter do something to me and said, you have to admit. He thought he was going to make me say I'd been with another woman. You know, if somebody's lesbian, somebody's bisexual, that's their thing. The thing of it is, I'm not. No shame in it. Heterosexual, I'm not going to be guilted for being heterosexual. Now, I have cousins that are gay. I have an aunt that's bisexual. You know, I don't care. That's their thing. I've always told people, you know, if you're not fucking my own man, you're not doing anything bad to my kid. You're not doing bad to something, you know, something bad to somebody I love. I don't really give a shit. But, you know, this guy's been allowed to do plenty bad to me. And all this stuff. I actually have my medical documentation. This asshole here was running around talking about women having clits like dicks and all this shit. You know what I mean? Have my damn medical record that doesn't say anything about any sort of malformation. It says, you know, my body looks normal. But he's tried to create this situation where if I say anything, he wanted to have me punished and have the people helping him punish me. But he didn't want me to be able to prove your mom. And that's just too damn bad. Because all this stuff I've been accused of and all this shit, actually, what Owensboro Health Regional Hospital did to me was a violation of human rights. They assaulted me. It was a crime against me to deny me my right to informed consent, inject me with, you know, 2 injections. There was 4 injections, 2 in each leg. And they didn't tell me what 2 of them were. That violated my right to informed consent. For someone to make up, you know, reasons to try to justify themselves. Me saying, hey, I want to unbiased third party here, and them turning their back to me and be like, we don't have to listen to you. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did have to listen. But they chose not to. So all this stuff, and I see this sort of theme where everyone tries to make it seem as if I say anything that's been done to me, then I'm doing them wrong. No, I'm not. And that's something else, is this asshole, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. He had a cousin. Me and his cousin had known each other since probably around high school. You know, knew his cousin, all this stuff. He used to run around with his cousin all the time. And I saw where he actually was making it seem as if his cousin's email was mine. Why? Because his cousin had went to prison in another state for lewd behavior with a child. His cousin used to ride a moped and stuff. Next thing I know, I start seeing a moped license come up on my driver's license, but I've never had a moped. Had a bunch of weird stuff happen. This guy was using my email I hadn't used in years, because, you know, when I started working in an office and all this stuff, and working as a secretary and everything, I was actually using a different email service, because the services that was available for me to do work on, stuff like that. And that's something else, Mr. Sheehan. This asshole was trying to make it seem as if I was having affairs with my coworkers. No, I wasn't. And when I used to work as a clerk in a store before, you know, I've worked as a clerk more than once. Guys used to try to hand me their phone numbers all the time. And I'd walk in and I'd throw those phone numbers down and be like, yeah, you know, somebody gave me their phone number today. But I never call them. You know, Mary didn't call him. But he wanted people to think I did. And as far as loyalty, this guy trying to make me believe that, you know, I'm this disloyal bitch if I tell the truth about him, while he's been disloyal to me and trying to make me take the blame for a lot of stuff he's done. And that's something else, is my cousin, who was only 13 when he was trying to screw her, anything she said, he would put me through the mill to try to, you know, when I say put me through the mill, what I mean is, you know, put me through hell, to try to impress her. Now, she's married, has a husband of her own, all this stuff, and he tried to tell me that my cousin asked him to leave me for her. So, yeah, this guy's did a lot of mental cruelty. He's put me through a lot of emotional cruelty when all he ever had to do was move out and go file for a divorce. There was no reason to put me through all that. And I think it's pretty fucking sick that the cousin that was only 13, where he was trying to fuck her, that he, you know, it's statutory rape in Kentucky. He keeps following her around when she's older and all this stuff, and wants to use her to try to hurt his wife with, as if, he doesn't realize that it's creepy for him to obsess about the child he molested. You understand that, right, Shan? Shannon Trumbull. And that's another thing. One of my sister's ex-husbands contacted me when all this shit started. Me and him started arguing, and I said I didn't know I was married to you. Why? Because me and him did not like each other. We used to fight a lot. Some of the stuff I caught him doing is something I would not put up with. And as far as all this shit, Shannon, because Shannon thought he could make Julia lick pussy, no, Shannon can never make Julia have lesbian sex. People are born the sexuality they are. He can't change mine. Do you understand that? Shannon Jane, do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait for the dogs to make noises with their mouths and then act like you understand that, because you do that shit all the time. Is that understood?
Yes.
The dogs making noises with their mouth is nothing more than the dogs randomly chewing on their own fur and shit. Is that understood? Because your dumbass recorded yourself having sex with someone else in our bed while I wasn't home doesn't mean you get to punish your wife for what you got caught doing. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand when you were in the bathroom with my 17-year-old niece? We're here in the living room. The bathroom's across the house. Sit here in this living room and hear someone fart in the bathroom. So you can't make it seem as if everyone didn't hear. Do you understand that, Shan?
Yes.
Y'all definitely weren't talking. Anyway. And that's something else, is this dumb fuck has tried to use yearbook quotes and anything he can to make me seem guilty of whatever. I mean, things are totally unrelated to anything that has anything to do with what me and him's been fighting about. Circumstantial stuff that's not, it's not even circumstantial. It's not related to anything we're talking about at all. But he wants to make it seem like it is. And, that's the thing, is we've talked to, different therapists and stuff like that. And all those therapists told my husband here that his wife thought in relational thinking. Me being that wife, relational thinking is actually logical thinking. Just because I have ADHD doesn't mean I'm illogical. I may seem like a crackhead to people, but it doesn't mean that I am. It's just I'm animated. I'm loud when I speak all the time. Of course, this asshole pretended to be deaf for years. And he thought he was being cute, and what it was is he'd look at me and be like, I can't hear you. Why are you mumbling? He told me that he hates the Verizon guy. The Verizon guy ended up being the Sprint guy later. Y'all remember? Can you hear me now? So he told me he hated the Verizon guy. And since I knew he was faking a bunch of shit and he was, pissing me off, he's even tried to say he had a spinal injury he didn't have. Since he was trying to fake a bunch of shit, pissed me off, all that stuff. And, I started saying, can you hear me now? He hated the Verizon guy. And all this stuff, Shannon Jean, for you to lean over in my phone. And I wonder what the hell he was doing. He leaned over my phone once. And he said, I was the best he ever had. He was screaming it into the bottom speaker of my phone. Like he was talking to the receiver. He also leaned over my phone. He leaned completely over me one day. Leaned into my phone and screamed, that's a son phone! I don't know what the hell he was getting at with that. And that's another thing this asshole does. And if everybody's like, if you don't like it, just leave. Start holding the people that are guilty accountable instead of trying to punish the people who wasn't doing anything wrong. This asshole tries to impress other women by mistreating his wife, by being hateful with his wife, by emotionally abusing his wife, and he tries to impress other women with such thing. One of his co-workers he talks about all the time. He talked bad about her. She was unattractive, she was this, she was that. It was some German woman. She even spoke with a German accent. But she actually sat down with me. I was sitting at a picnic table, and she walks up, she sits down, she looks at me, she says, why aren't you jealous of me? I said, excuse me? She said, why aren't you jealous of me? I was like, should I be? And the thing of it is, I'm not a jealous-hearted person. tried to explain to people. Jealousy is wanting what someone else has. Possessiveness is wanting to keep what you value. Jealous person, I'm not. But this asshole wanted everyone to think I was a bitter, jealous woman. You know, if I ran through, where I live and started fucking everyone's husbands and shit, and said, no, shut the fuck up. If you don't like it, just leave. He works. Get the fuck out. Be a bunch of pissed off motherfuckers around here. But that's basically what people's tried to say to me. They're like, he works. So? He shouldn't have been goddamn hitting his meth pipe at work. Maybe he wouldn't have been so dumb. So all this stuff, everybody's like, he works. So? I don't know many people that hasn't had to work. And the fact is, this asshole wants to say and do whatever he wants, and him and a few other people in my family, people he likes to party with, has wanted to spread a bunch of rumors, say what they wanted, stuff like that, but they don't want me speaking to anyone. They want me to seem isolated. They want to make it seem as if I'm strange or something like that. Because why? Because they don't want me to be able to challenge what they said. They don't want me to find out what they were saying. You know, this whole thing of say one thing, and this is a tactic my husband's always used. He says something to me. He's come in and he'd be like, oh, this guy's, being, he's trying to get me to fight guys for him. But, he'll come in like, oh, this person's being so mean. This is happening, that's happening, da-da-da. And then he runs to them and he's like, yeah, Julia said. And you know what? The thing of it is, some of his families tried to pull the same bullshit. They would come to me and they would talk shit about somebody and they were like, oh, yeah, they this, that, the nasty and all this shit. And I'm like, no, I've been at their house. I don't agree with you. When I would not agree with them, they would go to those people's house and say that I said what they said. Guess who decided to use that tactic? And as far as Julia using a dog, she hasn't used a pet dog for anything. Do you understand that, Shan? Shan and Jane. Is that understood?
Mm-hmm.
And no, you're not the clique commander. So you need to stop with your bullshit. Do you understand that?
Yes.
See, one of my family members that actually made this joke. She's always got something to say about everything. It was pretty funny. Some guy came in her home. He's like, I want to go out with you, but you're going to do this and you're going to do that and all this shit. My mom did not, and it was my mom. She did not like what she was hearing. And he started telling her all this stuff, and she was like, right off the bat, I went out with you, and you're telling me I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and yada, yada, yada. And then my mom had opened up her door, and she said, I got my own money. Got my own pussy. Don't need anybody managing either for me. She's like, get the fuck out. So that was what happened. I guess somebody took that as some justification to make me try to do what Shannon wanted, and it's really not. That's not justification to violate someone's rights and everything else. And because my husband thought he would make me admit to what he wanted, there is absolutely no law that gives him the right to have me harassed trying to make me say what he wants. There isn't a law that exists that allows such thing, but there's lots of laws that exist that makes what was done to me into something criminal. What was done to me was a criminal act against me. So he got this idea actually from this emergency worker that said that, that he was accused of that. He wasn't accused. What it was he had this health problem, and they said, well, it could be this and it could be that, and yada yada yada. Told him, did you sleep around? It might possibly be HIV. Blah blah blah. And he found out that's not what it was at all. But they had him tell his wife a bunch of stuff and all that shit. And what people need to realize is under state law, unless someone is actually diagnosed with some sort of communicable dangerous disease, they cannot order someone to say whatever they want. They cannot order someone to reveal all their information. They cannot inject someone with something, trying to force them or coerce them into anything. And what was done to me by Owensboro Health was actually coercion and intimidation. I know what they were doing. And the fact is, yes, I took law school and all that shit, but me knowing these things isn't unauthorized practice of law. So, all the while, they tried to make it the opposite, and that was something that was the crazy making tactic they did from the start, is they would try to make it the opposite of whatever was on paper, whatever was on record, all this stuff, and try to make me believe it was the opposite. They cannot make it the opposite. So, with all this stuff, you know, it was like, if you say it about him, then you're guilty of it. No, I'm not. Them trying to force such a thing is a method of coercion. It's a method of intimidation. They cannot punish me for things my husband did. They cannot punish me for things I've never even been to court for. They can't punish me for things that I've never even spoke about with any doctor. That's just a damn fact. Wasn't any speaking of sex between me and any of my doctors. They cannot punish me for this guy being in the bathroom with my niece. They can't punish the wife for a situation I didn't create. Owensboro Health tried to convince me that I had to pretend as if I was severely mentally ill or someone might prosecute me. For one, someone cannot just use an insanity defense, because you know what? Most of the time that defense doesn't work. Two, if you know the difference between right and wrong, that's all that's required in court. 3, Owensboro Health and other people trying to punish me for an ADHD diagnosis. They don't have that right. Trying to sort of, I don't know, discriminate against me. That Owensboro Health, the way they worded it is they didn't believe me. They said the ADHD she thinks she has. No, I've got my medical records on it. But all my medical records also say normal cognition, normal judgment, normal memory. All that stuff. Why? Because ADHD does not make someone psychotic. It does not mean they cannot make decisions. So if anyone's taking the stereotypes about it, they need to stop with that shit. Because it's not what they're trying to make it out to be. And no, they can't punish me because my husband, and he sounds hurt and all this stuff. They're like, oh, if you say that about him, we'll say this about you. No, they don't have that right. I had a cousin who's never even been in my home try to tell me that I was going to have to stay on camera all the time to make sure that I wasn't guilty. No. You know, I'm not mentally retarded. I'm not mentally incompetent. I'm not guilty of doing anything with any dogs. And no, no one has the right to make me prove to them constantly that I'm not doing what I never did in the first place. They don't have that right. And, you know, that's the thing is I actually told the sheriff, I was like, look, you know, you don't want to start in with all that bullshit because someone was trying to make it seem as if I did something to my grandma. I never laid a hand on my grandmother and she didn't live in this house. But because this asshole got caught, they wanted to try to make me say that he wasn't guilty. I know he was. You know, I was like, look, I still have the hard drive that he had all that stuff on. You know, I still have it. And, you know, as far as needle tracks, G. Trimble's never been a needle user. And what it is I had stepped out in a parking lot once. And as soon as I got out of the car, it just rained, stuff like that. I started to walk through and my kid said, Mom, look out. And I looked down and there's these needles in a McDonald's bag. You know, I stepped back. I didn't step on them, but I was like, oh, shit. You know, I wasn't expecting that. Because it doesn't matter if it's diabetic needles or, you know, someone's drug use. They still have the possibility of being infected with, you know, something you don't want to catch. And, you know, that's the reason that healthcare workers, no matter who they're dealing with, wears gloves, wears protective gear, puts the sharps in a, you know, box that warns, hey, there's sharps in here, all that stuff, because they actually are dangerous. So, needles actually are dangerous under any circumstances. They always carry a risk with them, but someone wanted to punish me for saying anything about it. When my mom looked at me and she's like, "Oh, Julie, you're punishing yourself." No, I'm not. I've never laid a hand on my mom, baby. And that's another thing is I had found a revenge porn profile. It was listed in Sacramento, Kentucky. All this stuff. And, Owensboro Health doesn't have the right to punish me. They tried to tell me I wasn't allowed to do this. Yeah, I fucking am. Anyway. Found a revenge porn profile. It was listed in Sacramento, Kentucky. The thing of it was, around the same time the profile was put up, this asshole had a ZTE tablet after we had sex. And this was before, I knew he hadn't changed his ways, that he was still cheating, he was still straying out on stuff, didn't know it. And he would get up out of bed, turn his tablet in landscape mode, put his knees against the bed to balance himself and edge all the way around the bed. Thought that was strange, but, who's going to think that their husband, who they were getting along with at the time, would do such a thing? So, I found this revenge porn profile. You can't see the girl's face, but you can, see that she's naked, all this stuff. Tried turning it into the sheriff's office, told him I have screenshots of that. He's like, "No, I don't want it." I was like, "Well, you wait a minute, because I have screenshots of it." Know what website it was on? Reported the website, reported it to the website myself, because they said it had been up 5 years before I found it. Anyway, it was listed in Sacramento, Kentucky. And everyone was like, "Oh, cheating on Shannon." No, I wasn't. I know damn good and well I wasn't in Sacramento, Kentucky fucking anybody. And the thing of it was, I had an ex-boyfriend my husband thought lived in Sacramento, Kentucky. But the joke's on him because he didn't live there. He did not live in Sacramento, Kentucky. But my husband thought he did. So since my husband thought he lived in Sacramento and all this stuff, they've tried to come up with every way. So the thing of it is, I have screenshots of that profile, all that stuff. Anyone want to compare it to my medical records, all that shit, let them try it. I haven't spent any time with my ex-boyfriend whatsoever in 20 years or more. So, all this stuff that all these fuckers have tried to pull. And, my daughter looking at me being like, "That's Dad's money." I said, "This is the state of Kentucky. I'm his wife. You better think twice. My money too." So I've had all these people try to make me believe that just, I have to just bow down and kiss my husband's ass. No, I don't. My husband had already lost the war the minute Owensboro Health injected me with anything as a coercion or intimidation tactic. The minute they tried to twist around and blame me for what he did, he'd already violated past having any real defense. So all these people are like, "You better not spend money, you better not do this." I don't have to answer to anyone. I've had the same bank account since 2001 for the reason that I could handle my bank account. He's had several because they kept getting shut down. Mine's never been shut down. So all these people are like, Shannon's money. Shannon couldn't handle his money. And, that's an absolute fact. My husband cannot handle his money. Just because someone wants Shannon to seem as if he's something he's not, doesn't make him be what they want him to be. So all these people look at me like, Shannon. I'm like, motherfucker, I've lived with Shannon. All these people look at me and what it is, he runs to these other people. And I've told him the reason people act this way is because he leads them into these beliefs with his conversations with them and stuff. And no, Shannon doesn't lead me. I wouldn't follow this motherfucker's leadership for any reason in the world. The thing of it is, he makes people, everyone he meets, he makes them believe that he's confiding things in them that he's never confided to anyone before, although he's already told a bunch of people. He always tries to make these people think, because he assumes they won't speak to each other, that they're the special one. So all of a sudden, these people start believing that they're more important in his life than his own wife, who he lives with. So they would cuss me. They would be like, Shannon, and all this shit. And I'm like, motherfucker, I know him. I've known him so long, I can't even remember meeting him. I cannot remember meeting this man because I was so young, and I can remember my memories all the way back to 4 years old. I can remember the first rainbow I saw at 4 years old. I remember the house we lived in. Remember not the house, we live in a trailer or something. Remember the layout of it. I can remember everything about it. And I was only 4. So someone trying to pretend as if I don't know him. You're damn right I do. He was my brother's best friend growing up. You know, lived in the same town. Didn't live that far from each other. All that stuff. You're damn right I do know him. So other people up in my face like, you don't know Shana. Yeah, I do. You know, his boss stood there, was walling around on the door one day, acting like, you know, my husband had convinced him that I was insane. And they acted as if I was going to walk in the place and shoot it up or something. I'm listening to rap music. Oh my God. She might think she's a gangster. I've lived around gangsters. Most of these motherfuckers around here wouldn't make it around them. So, he's tried to convince everybody that I was goddamn nuts and shit. And no, Shannon's never been forced into sex with his wife. Someone tried to punish me because he tried to force me. Anyway, he tried to convince them that I was mentally unstable, all this shit. Now, this motherfucker is the one that has guns and drug charges. This motherfucker is the one that has all kinds of violent charges on his criminal record. But he was trying to convince people that I was unstable. So this guy's walling around on the door, you know, he's plant manager, and he was like, I gotta protect my employees. And I said, look, man. I said, how long you been here? He was like 2 or 3 years, something like that. And I said, I've known Shannon all my life. Don't act as if you know him better than I do. Because you don't. So, you know, he's one, and I knew part of it was like, damn, you were presumptuous, and these guys are going to eat you up, because I've already seen one plant manager after another. First time he pisses their workers off, they'll start a bunch of shit, and before long, he's out of there. That's the reason they've had more than one plant manager out there, you know, in the years that I've known that place. And, you know, this guy was walling around and all this shit, and I thought, these motherfuckers are going to eat you up and spit you out. You know, so, you know, I didn't fight it too hard because I was like, damn, I've already seen my husband and a few of his coworkers and shit do the same thing to other people. And I was like, this motherfucker's going to chew you up, spit you out. And this guy thinks he's being some hero to these people. And that's something I just wanted to look at the guy and explain to him. I wanted to look at him and be like, you know what? You are, you know, acting as if I'm crazy while you're protecting a guy that is a known fact. He's already been doing terrible things to his wife and all this shit. He's wanting to play hero, and this motherfucker's finally going to end up getting him. So, you know, that guy was wanting to play hero to my old man, and I was like, damn, you're not the first guy that's tried that, and it's going to end up blowing up in your face. And that's something else, Mr. Trimble. Just because you and some other people had a bet you could make Julia be a lesbian, you can get over that shit. Don't owe it to my husband to do any lesbian shit, ever. Anyway. Well, I know him and someone else was on the phone. They started going on with that shit as if Julia should be online doing sex work to make money. That one never happened. And, you know, my reply to him was, if you and him feel that strongly about it, you can suck each other's dicks. And leave me the fuck out of it. This motherfucker tried to trade me once to another man. And I turned around and, you know, I was surrounded by all these people and it was all guys. And I turned around and I said, you know, my husband wants to trade someone off, but like it's like that and all that shit, motherfucker better learn to suck dick. Because I'm not a commodity to be traded. That's just it. So all these guys want to feel like they're some sort of gangsta pimps. As if they're going to trade women around. And I've had people try to make me think I was manly. No, I'm not manly. The reason I stand up the way I do is because I'm with a man that wouldn't protect me. He was one of the people that would have hurt me. So, since I've always kind of had to stand up for myself, didn't have anybody around to protect me and all these shit like, you're manly. No, I'm not manly. I am assertive. I've had men raise their damn hands to me, want to fight me fist to fist. I mean, that's just all there is to it. There's guys out there like that. That don't wear rose-colored glasses. Can't. Lived in the real world. But as far as all that goes, because this guy here, and I tried to tell him what made him feel better about trying to humiliate a woman he claimed to love. So they tried to make it all about gangster. I listen to the lyrics and all that shit. For one, it's entertainment. Most of them will tell you it's entertainment. Another thing is, anybody ever actually talk to their wives? They don't treat their wives that way. Guarantee those guys aren't up there passing their wife around to all their friends. So, it's not me that has the disconnect in between reality and fantasy. And as far as the love of your life, Shan, whoever your new crush is, love of your life, all that stuff, you, Mr. Shannon Trimble, can pack your stuff and go move in with her. Do you understand that? Shannon Jean? Do you hear me?
Yes.
And that's something else. They tried to make me seem as if I was insane because, I sort of had this pack on me and all this stuff. But this asshole right here, and this isn't the only time he's done it. He's done it a bunch of times. But he'd actually left me stranded over 20 miles away from our house. So, I was out walking the streets and stuff. Police didn't bother me. They saw me walking, so maybe they knew what the situation was. But this motherfucker tries to report at the hospital as if I'd lost my mind. But actually what had happened was he left me stranded over 20 miles away from our house. Every time he's got mad, he's did shit like that. So all these people are trying to make it seem as if he's the victim. Fuck no. More than once, this motherfucker has left me stranded over 20 miles away from home. Or he tries to set up situations where he will be cheating on me or something like that. He will get one of his friends try to talk to me, make it into a situation where I have to ask for a ride or something like that. And then he tries to make it seem as if I was fucking him. So that little bait and switch is something he's done for a long time. So Shannon doing that bait and switch and all this shit about bait, get over it, Shannon. This isn't about Stevie Morrow. Because, when someone hacked my phone and stuff, I started seeing this guy come up all the time. But that guy's been dead for years. I'm not the reason. Wasn't his wife, wasn't his girlfriend, wasn't ever his lover. But my husband got caught with his wife. So he was trying to switch it around.